Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. I am your teacher Simeen Amir and today I am here again with a new lecture. I hope everything is going well with you and your family, and let's begin today's lecture. This is my lecture number 17 for grade 1 and today we have a geography class. As we have already started unit number 9, which is about the industrial development. In the previous lecture, we learnt about few major industries of Pakistan. Among them was the sugar industry of Pakistan. Sugarcane in Pakistan is grown on approximately 1.2 million hectares and provides the raw material for 90 sugar mills. So the sugar industry is this country's second largest agricultural based business after textiles. We also learned about the fertilizer industry of Pakistan, and fertilizers are substances that supply one or more of the chemicals required for plants' growth. The primary objective of this industry is to ensure the inflow of both primary and secondary elements required for crop production in the desirable quantities. So currently in Pakistan there are 6 major producers of fertilizers, which include like Fauji Fertilizers, Anglo Fertilizers Company, um, Dawood, Hercules and Fatma Fertilizers are the major fertilizers industries of Pakistan. Some of the industries are located in Dawood Sale, in Punjab, Haripur, KPK and in Upper Sindh. Major fertilizer factories in Pakistan is the Pak Arab Fertilizer Factory, and that is in Multan. We also learned about the cement industry of Pakistan, which is flourishing in Pakistan because of the availability of the raw material like limestone and gypsum, and it has a good domestic market here, and cement industries are mostly located near limestone bridges like in Attak, Rawalpindi and Nowshera area. So cement is always considered as a barometer of progress in developing countries and is rightly taken as an important economic activity indicator. So cement industry is progressing at a very fast pace in Pakistan also. Like Gilgit-Baltistan alone with its around 50,000 megawatt capacity can help the country to overcome the energy crisis. We also learned about the steel industry of Pakistan, and Pakistan's steel industry can provide raw material to the engineering and construction industry. And the steel industries in Pakistan reduces the burden of foreign exchange resources, and Pakistan Steel Mill Corporation with technical and financial assistance from the USSR was established on the 30th December in 1973. So presently Pakistan produces around 6 million metric tons of steel per year. This includes like raw products, iron ore and scrap, flat products which includes sheets and plates used in the automotive sector, and long products also which includes like steel bars, wire rods, rails, and structures used in the infrastructure development and tubes and pipes. Now for today's lecture, the first topic is industrial state, and this is on page number 163. Industrial estates are specific areas or reserved for industries only. They are established to help and encourage the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are the businessmen or the person who, like we can say, who set up the business. So industrial estate is a place where necessary infrastructure facilities are made available to the businessmen. The government provides infrastructure facilities such as metal roads. Metal road means pakki sadkein, like electricity, water, gas, hospitals and the sanitation facilities. Pakistan's first industrial estate was Sindh Industrial Trading State Limited in Karachi, and that was established in 1947. Numerous industrial estates all over the country have now been established. Sindh has the largest number of industrial estates because of its nearness to Karachi, both the largest city and a port. So industrial states have provided easy and cost-effective access to electricity, water and roads because the infrastructure has been established to support industrial activities. As a result, you can focus more on your core activities. The industrial states can enjoy various incentives such as exemption from custom duty on imported machinery. The private sector is also encouraged to establish industrial states in the country. It is allowed to develop infrastructure facilities, especially power generation for its industrial units on these states. Like the main objectives of industrial states are like accommodation and infrastructure, assistance to the SSIs. SSIs means small scale industries, the dispersal of the industries, assistance to the ancillary industries, and the term ancillary industry refers to industry which supports the main industrial activity in a given region or in a given city, and then development of entrepreneurship. Um, Special industrial zones, like the special industrial zone is an area in which the business and trade laws are different from the rest of the country. These are located within a country's national borders, and their aims include increased trade balance, employment, increased investment, job creation, and effective administration. So a scheme of special industrial zones was planned to support the manufacture and trade of various export products. Um, the development of the concepts, the incentives and the facilities offered by the government to attract local and foreign investors. A special industrial zone can be developed even in those areas where infrastructure facilities like water supply, electricity, telephone and metal roads are not available. So means those areas can be developed with these projects. The interested companies like local or foreign investors would develop these facilities and provide utilities for the zones. So even the local people can even enjoy these basic facilities like the utilities given by the investors. However, they will be assisted by the respective government agencies to provide public facilities like telephone, electricity, water supply, metal roads, and the investors will be allowed to develop their residential, commercial, and social facilities in the vicinity, which is vicinity means the locality of the industrial zones. The government has also offered many incentives, which includes like tax exemptions on import of machinery, like if we are importing machinery, any machinery for our industries from other countries, so there will be no tax or custom duty on those machinery. So that is in also relaxation in the foreign exchange control and simplified procedures like tax holidays and security. Tax holidays means the elimination of tax. However, in order to attract local and foreign investors, there should be consistency in government policies. Like here in Pakistan, the political situation is very unstable and the governments are keep on changing again and again. And each government has their own policies, their own manifestos. So mostly like the investors are discouraged by these policies and they are not investing their money in these industries. So any abrupt change or shifting priorities weaken the um, confidence of the investors and discourage the industrial expansion. Unfortunately, this has to often been the case, so investor confidence is very low. Government industrial policy since independence. Since the country's independence in 1947, the economy of Pakistan has emerged as a semi-industrialized one, based heavily on textiles, agriculture, and food production. though recent years have seen a push towards technological diversification. So Pakistan suffered its huge economic decline in GDP between 1951 and 1952. After 1947, the private sector was reluctant, or we can say unwilling, to invest in capital-intensive industries. So to fill this gap, the Pakistan Industrial Development Corporation (PIDC) was established to invest in industries in which the private sector was reluctant. So PIDC was successful in establishing many large-scale industries like fertilizers industry, textile industry, also like cement, chemicals, paperboard, and sugar industries. Later, the PIDC transferred some of their projects to the private sector when the risk was reduced. So some of the private investors were now willing to invest. This policy encouraged the private sector and stimulated, or we can say encouraged, industrial activity during the 1960s. And the performance of private sector in the development of industries was encouraging. During the 60s, the country became self-sufficient in most of the agro-based industries. This period is known as the era of industrialization.
The mission of PIDC was industrialization, and industrialization refers to process of manufacturing consumer goods and capital goods to create social overhead capital in order to promote goods and services to individual and businesses. Sorry for the previous slides. I think the voice was not clear. The Pakistan Industrial Development Corporation was established like in 1950 under the Act of Federal Legislative. And the Pakistan Industrial Development Corporation Board worked for planning, promoting, organizing, and implementing programs for like establishment of industries, development of mines, and development of any material that government may specify. When Pakistan came into being, industries remained neglected by private sector due to lack of expertise, experience, capital, and technical know-how. So, in such a desperate situation, the Pakistan Industrial Development Corporation made a big breakthrough, and they were quite successful in establishing many large-scale industries in Pakistan. The main function of the corporation was like to establish preferably those industries in which private sector did not show interest, and in such industries which were of vital importance from security and economic point of view. So this corporation was made responsible to promote 15 specified industries in the country, which were included like GEO, paperboard, and newsprint. Heavy engineering included iron and steel, shipbuilding, heavy chemicals, fertilizers, sugar industry, cement industry, textiles, chemicals, pharmaceutical, natural gas, petrochemicals, coal and peat, and exploitation of marine fisheries. Nationalization of industries. Nationalization refers to the action of the government taking control of the company or industry, which generally occurs without compensation for the loss of the net worth of the seized assets and potential income. In 1972, on a televised speech to the nation, the then government Bhutto and the People's Party government promulgated the three-staged program under nationalization and economic reforms order, which nationalized all major metal industries like including iron and steel, heavy engineering, and heavy electricals. So, adopting the principle of nationalization, there was a major change in government policy. The transfer of 10 basic industries to the public sector inflicted heavy blows to the private sector. Inflicted means imposed heavy blows to the private sector. Since the nationalization of industries in 1972, the pace of industrial development has remained slow. The uncertain policies of the government reduced the level of investment in the private sector. Foreign investors were also reluctant to invest. The investment climate for the private sector was not favorable. Nationalization of industries in 1972 was the biggest cause of the fall of private industrial sector in Pakistan, and the total investment in private sector dropped from rupees 1,358 million in 1970 to 71 to the 650 million during 76 and 77. This devaluation of currency to the extent of like 131% raised the cost of machinery, which resulted in rapid cost inflation. Denationalization from 1977 to 88. Denationalization, which is a form of privatization, occurs when a national government sells an asset or operation, such as a large government-owned firm, to private investors. So in 1977, the government reversed its industrial policy. It was nationalized, so the government denationalized the industries again. The martial law government gave assurance that no further industries would be nationalized. Many of the nationalized industries were given back to their former owners. Privatization in 1988 and onwards. Privatization is a process by which the government of a country transfers the state-owned enterprises or businesses to the private sector. The privatization of state-owned enterprises has been promoted since 1991, and the policies of liberalization and deregulation are followed all over the world. Liberalization means to give independence or to reduce or remove all the restrictions, and deregulation means like the removal of any regulation. So they were followed all over the world. The objectives of the privatization were like to create better opportunities for the private sector for expansion and modernization, that they can expand their businesses and modernize with the technology, with the help of technology. And then to improve productivity and profitability, like to increase the production rate and to increase the profit rate for the private sector. To reduce the burden on the government's economic resources, like government was already in a financial crisis. To facilitate economic activities for the private sector and to achieve more rapid industrialization, like people were encouraged with privatization, so they were willing to invest. There are many advantages of privatization, like increase in efficiency and profitability. Like most government industries and services are inefficient and running in losses. Take for example, like PIA. When these will be transferred to private sector, their administration will be improved. Then lack of political interference. Managers in the COEs are motivated by political pressure rather than sound economic and business sense. For example, employing surplus workers to avoid negative publicity. Surplus workers like extra workers to avoid negative publicity. Privatization will also obviate the need for raising fresh debit for the rehabilitation and development of public sector industries. A substantial portion of the funds will be applied for retirement of the debt. And the reduction in the subsidies, like subsidies are the to reduce the price of the commodity. The government are spending money or giving its share in the different commodities. So this reduction in the subsidies will be possible as assets are sold to the private sector, so which will be a positive contribution in reducing the budget deficit of the government. So short-term view, as the government is always thinking for a short-term view because they have to spend their own 5 years. So a government may think only in terms of next election, but therefore they may be unwilling to invest in infrastructure improvement which will benefit the firm in the long term because they are more concerned about projects that give a benefit before the election. So if we give the industries to the or companies in the private sector, obviously they will think about a long-term view. Then as shareholders, like it is argued that a private firm has pressure from the shareholders to perform efficiently. When we are privatizing a company, obviously there are more than one shareholder. So many shareholders will has pressure from the will obviously pressurize the company for to work efficiently. If the firm is inefficient, then the firm could be subject to a takeover. A state-owned firm doesn't have this pressure, and so it is easier for them to be inefficient. Then privatization will increase competition among different companies. More firms enter the industry and increase the competitiveness of the market. Increased competition leads to improvement in the efficiency. For example, like competition in telecom nowadays in Pakistan. Then we have some disadvantages of privatization, like it can increase in tax evasion, like private sector generally tries to avoid payment of taxes. Thus, privatization of the enterprises will result in the decrease of tax income to the country. Then is the exploitation by private sector. Privatization will result in exploitation by rich people. They may charge more prices for their goods and services. And whenever they want, they may terminate workers to reduce cost of production. Thus, different types of exploitation may be started, and the concept of welfare state for Pakistan will be jeopardized. Jeopardize means like it when we are putting Pakistan into a situation in which there is a danger of loss, harm, and of failure. Then is concentration of wealth, like privatization of large industrial units and services sector such as banks and insurance companies will increase concentration of wealth in private hands. In privatization, more workers are declared surplus or extra burden and thus are fired by the company. Therefore, there is an increase in unemployment rate which will eventually increase crime rate in the society. Then is there are many industries which perform an important public services like healthcare and public transport. In these industries, the profit motivate the profit motive should not be the primary objective of firms and the industries. So I think that's enough for today's lecture. Here is your assignment. You have to do one question only from page number 185. The question is question number 6. Describe and suggest reasons for the development which are taking place in the special industrial zones. You have to do this question in your neat notebook. Please make a margin line. Must write today's day and date, and please maintain your index. Thank you so much, dear students, for watching this video. We'll meet up again with another video, with another lecture. Please stay at home, stay healthy, stay safe, stay blessed. Till then, bye.